Alright, these are the notes for 12.1, Part 2, the midpoint formula. I already did the notes for the distance formula on another video, so if you haven't watched that one, make sure you watch that one also. If you're in my Math 60 class and you're taking notes for our class. Alright, so in order to find the midpoint of a line segment containing two particular points, we're going to first start off by labeling 2 points. We're going to call this first point that I have here P sub 1. And I'm going to label it as X sub 1, comma, Y sub 1. You know what? Let me take off these little grid marks here because I don't want you to be able to count up the points there and think you can count up what X sub 1 is. We don't know what X sub 1 is. This is X sub 1. This is Y sub 1, and then we're going to call this other point over here P sub 2, and that's going to be X sub 2, comma, Y sub 2. I'm going to connect these points by creating a line segment. Right there. And we want to find the midpoint. Now the midpoint is going to be the point right at the very center of this line segment. So in order to find this midpoint, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to basically have to find the very middle between X sub 1 and Y sub 1, and the very middle between Y sub 2 and Y sub 1. And if I find the very middle, or in other words, the average, it's going to line up with the very middle of my line segment containing P sub 1 and P sub 2. Alright, so how do we do this? To find the very middle between X sub 1 and Y sub 1, I need to find an average. I'm going to add X sub 1 plus X sub 2 and divide by 2. And to find the very middle between Y sub 1 and Y sub 2, I need to find an average as well. So I'm going to add Y sub 1 plus Y sub 2 and divide by 2. So those are going to be the coordinates for my midpoint. So we're going to call my midpoint here M, and the X value is going to be X sub 1 plus X sub 2 divided by 2, comma, my Y value is going to be Y sub 1 plus Y sub 2 divided by 2. Okay. So let's go ahead and write that out so it looks a little bit more formal. This is the midpoint formula. The midpoint of the line segment containing endpoints P sub 1 equal to X sub 1 comma Y sub 1 and P sub 2 equal to X sub 2 comma Y sub 2 is M equal to X sub 1 plus X sub 2 divided by 2, comma, Y sub 1 plus Y sub 2 divided by 2. There's our midpoint. Let's do an example how we find the midpoint of a line segment containing two endpoints. Okay, so find the midpoint of the line segment formed by joining the endpoints p sub 1 equal to 2 comma 2 and p sub 2 equal to 6 comma 4. I always like to label my points so I don't get confused. I'm going to call 2 comma 2 x sub 1 y sub 1, and I'm going to call the ordered pair for 6 comma 4 x sub 2 y sub 2, and I'm going to substitute. M is going to be equal to our x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2 comma y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. The more times you write this down, the easier it's going to be for you to remember. So now I just do straight substitution. 2 plus 6 divided by 2 comma 2 plus 4 divided by 2, and this is going to come out to 8 divided by 2 comma 6 divided by 2, which is 4 comma 3. That will be our midpoint. And that's how we find the midpoint, okay, between of a line segment containing these two endpoints.